Eggoz is a very interesting business. It's in the consumer brand D2C space, one of the very few brands working in the non-vegetarian side of the Indian food agri ecosystem. We're a loyal customer. My wife trusts only the Eggoz brand for the protein needs of her daughter. Come join me as I interview Abhishek Negi, founder CEO of Eggoz. Hey Abhishek, lovely having you on this podcast.
Hi Ram, it's great to be here and thanks for having me on your podcast.
Great. Maybe you can start with a brief introduction about yourself and Eggoz as a business.
Sure. I'm Abhishek. I run this company called Eggoz. We are a leading brand of eggs and egg-based products in India, aspiring to build the Amul for eggs in India and bring about the egg revolution in India, so to speak. Personally, I'm a big eggheads, and it was one of the you can say intersections of passion and also business opportunity what led me and my co-founders to start this business in eggs. I come from an army background, so I've been born, raised, and transferred across the country as my father got transferred in his job. Did my studies and bachelor's from IT Kharagpur, passed out in 2013, and have been an entrepreneur since. Uh, uh, Started out first with a cab aggregator startup that failed completely during demonetization, with all of the macros going really wrong, really opposite for us, and restarted again after that. And today, Eggoz is one of the largest egg branded players in India and is responsible for creating the category in various cities as we are.
Fantastic. I need to do a side note. So I'm a big follower of heavy metal, death metal, extreme music. In fact, I'm wearing a T-shirt of Batushka, which is a Polish black metal band, and we use the term metal heads. And when you said egghead, I was just okay, metalhead talking to an egghead. Interesting stuff.
That's great. So even I'm a big fan of rock, not so
Acha.
of metal. I think the most metal I've gone would be Iron Maiden, if
Oh,
that
nice,
still counts.
nice, nice.
But
In
yes,
fact, I'm reading a nice book on the Guns N' Roses history these days. A very fascinating history. We'll catch up offline about that. That's a very interesting book. I'll send you the details. Great. Getting back to the questions. In the food agri ecosystem, and being like an operator and investor in this space, typically I've seen the founders are more comfortable with a B2B play than a B2C play. And the typical thought process is that, look, I have only so much capital. And if I use this capital to acquire customers in a B2C play, I'm going to score very less revenue. But if I do it in the B2B play, then, rotation is faster and I can get much higher numbers. That's a typical thought process, so to say. So I'm just curious, what gave you the conviction that boss, B2C, or at least building a good brand is critical? Would love to know, the thought process behind it.
yeah, sure. So I get this point where sometimes doing B2B can have its merits. Uh, when I speak about my company, we also started out as a B2B business itself, where for the initial 3 years of our business, we were doing poultry farming ourselves in rural India, and the entire sale and the entire production used to go in unbranded channels and used to be traded off, and be sold in a trading business kind of activity. And there was no Eggoz brand in the first 3 years. There was no business or which was centered towards consumers. But it was very recently, around 3 years ago, post COVID, is when we timed our launch for the Eggoz brand, and since then the entire focus has been towards only building the Eggoz branded business, and we shut down the entire trading business altogether. So I would say both have its merits. Of course, B2B can give you immediate scale in terms of a financial revenue number or volumes. However, at the same time, margins are really thin. in a B2B business, depending on which category you are playing in compared to consumer. And largely is, generally what we have seen is in B2B, your clients and your consumers or your customers also get concentrated to a few clients. You're not reaching out there to large consumers and mass. So your business is concentrated to few pockets, and if there are any, say, macro or any strategic changes, it can impact you in a big way. Our goal with Eggoz, since the day we started and decided that, okay, let's do eggs, was always that, we want to build a brand of eggs and egg-based products. We want to build the Amul for eggs. In our journey, doing poultry farming and doing B2B sale was just part of the journey in helping us learn the trade and learning more about what really happens in this sector and how we can be an industry expert over there. So for us, it was always a part of goal to launch a consumer brand, which has now helped us build a name which has decent level of awareness in the cities where we play. There is a brand pull which comes directly from consumers. Now, if that consumer is buying a product from, say, any quick commerce account or say a modern trade retail chain or say a kirana store, they're buying it because of Ego's brand name. So that establishes a really long-term, a really long-term relationship with the consumer. And also, if we're able to satisfy their expectation and deliver on our promises in a consistent basis in future, it also establishes a long-term business for us with healthy margins, of course. So I would say it depends on the entrepreneur on what your ambitions are, what your intent is with that category, with that line of business, and then it's just a matter of go to market and figuring out your way and your pathway.
Interesting. So I mean, if I were to paraphrase what you said, it's almost like we knew B2C is the eventual end game, but just to survive and to make sure that we are understanding the nuts and bolts of this business, we did B2B, and then we kind of pivoted. And one thing I find very commendable about your journey is that you moved to B2C and a brand play and like a better unit economics much before the VCs woke up and said that, okay, I'm not looking at GMV any longer. I'm looking at profitability, so to say.
Yeah.
On that note, did you also have VCs, kind of challenging your pivot that, B2B से B2C में क्यों जा रहे हो? इसमें बहुत पैसा burn होगा, stuff like that? Or, they understood your journey and largely, they were appreciative of your direction.
So I would say we've heard we've heard a lot of no's and criticism from many investors in this sector. And it's not only during the shift from say B2B to B2C, but during our entire journey that why it's why it even matters, so on and so forth. Now, of course, the investors who really believed in the vision, who believe in us, and the team, they partnered with us and have supported us along the way, and the companies today because of their investment and their belief at the right point of time. But raising funds in our journey has been a tough journey because we are not selling a glamorous product. We are not in a glamorous industry which is trending in news or anything like that. We're in the industry which is really at the ground level, and it's a really you will have to get your hands dirty to work in this industry. uh, so yeah, so mixed responses. People who felt that there is a business over here. Most of them are partners with us today, but majority of them did not believe this at that point of time. That why should it even happen? Why would consumers even care for a branded X products? Which also drove my belief to a point of view at a certain point of time in middle that it got us thinking that a lot of the investors who are, say, in India, they're also a typical Indian consumer, right? So this consumer, who is a person in himself or herself, also is not aware about the benefits of a branded egg or say a good egg or a herbal egg versus a loose egg. They don't know the reality of the industry because no one has educated them. So when they see a startup pitch on their face, They may choose to believe it or they may choose not to believe it. People who believed it really understood the value because they were able to see the trends that have gone on in various other commodity staples, like say atta, dairy, meat, etc. And they've also seen the trends, how it has happened, how they have happened in the developed markets across the globe. So mixed responses, tough journey so far, but yeah, we are keeping that.
Sure, sure. In fact, good that you brought about the point about, do consumers really understand a brand and, why should it make a difference? I remember long back you mentioned that, people in Theobrahma are excited about your quality of eggs. And they say that when we make cake from, or brownies
Mhm.
from your egg, there's a significant difference. But when you talk about consumers, I don't know how you go and explain that, the difference is this,
Right.
and uh, one broad trend which I see is the spending power of consumers has gone up, and there is it's a small percentage of consumers who
Mm.
are generally willing to pay a premium because they just believe or they just hope that when you pay a premium you are getting a better product. But that's like a wrong way of looking at business and marketing, so to say. So would love to know how you have been selling the story to consumers. How are you building this brand? And I'm sure you would have had some uh, trials and errors, and certain things wouldn't have worked. So would love to hear some anecdotes. You did this, it worked. You did this, it didn't work, and this is what seems to be working right now.
So uh, I would say it like this that okay, to keep it short, we have been trying to build a brand based on a great product, especially in food, or I would say even in any other category. If you don't have a great product, which is consistent each and every point of time, every time a consumer purchases it, then you should not be in that business of building that brand. So that was rule number one in our company that, can we produce a great egg or not? That is why, we spent 3 years in doing poultry farming vessels to learn how we can produce a better egg and how we can scale that to large volume and provide standardized quality at scale. So number one, our entire communication or brand building for a large part of our branded journey, which is only 3 years so far, has been centered on delivering a better product to the market, delivering a great product to the market, and being consistent each and every point of time. It is now since the last 6, 7 months we've started to become very vocal with communication on why choose Eggoz. Choose it because of its herbal hint free. There are no chemicals over here, and one of the trust marker is that you can spot our orange yolk inside the egg, which will also give you better nutrition. These are few factors on which we have started to speak out now. But for a large part of 3 years, we were just focusing on distribution, supply chain, and producing better products. To extend on this thought, I would say for any other, say, new age consumer brand who are maybe agri based, they have to think about the product first. Story can be, say, developed and built out on a later date. That story can appeal to consumers to get them to a purchase point and can even get them to a trial at one point of time. But if your product is not great, if it does not provide a substantially better experience, then they will not come again. So that's just rule number one. So that's the rule number one at Eggoz, that deliver consistent quality at each and every point of time. So put in the right investments, put in the right talent, and the knowledge at the right place so that we are able to do that.
Cool, cool. And if I might ask, how many consumers do you service on a daily basis? What's the customer base like? And, because you do a lot of digital transactions, what would be the repeat rate of these customers?
In fact, all close to 100% of our sales is through FMCG trade. Is
Okay.
through omnichannel trades, which means that a large part of the business is coming from quick commerce clients, 3, 4 of them, and modern trade retail chains, and a substantial business comes from general trade networks, through Kirana, where we are working with more than 3,000 counters as of now. So pointing out how many, what is the exact quantity and consumer base is really tough in our kind of business. but our estimates say that on a regular basis, at least 4 lakh consumers are transacting with Eggoz products. Now, it can be a purchase once a week or once a month, but a rough estimate that we understand based on consumption patterns in Indian household is around 4 lakh plus consumers on a regular basis. Repeat rates is high. So these are eggs, right? Just like any other staple. If you get convinced with the quality and if it is affordable to you, then you don't think about it anymore. Then it becomes part of your daily household purchase habit and also your consumption habit because you just like eating that food article in that way. So repeat rates are really high, where we have seen, especially with the data that is shared by quick commerce, the analytics which are shared from them, we see repeats of more than 80% on a monthly basis, where oh sorry on a weekly basis, where 80% of the business comes from repeat consumers, and 20% is consumers we are trying to acquire to increase our funnel month on month.
Interesting, interesting. I'm sure you would also have some painful customers ki ye kya bakwas hai, and people complaining and writing bad reviews and blah blah blah. Any interesting anecdotes to share on painful customers?
Majority of our consumer complaints, and first of all, I would say, if someone has purchased a product and if they are regular to our product and they are consumer, then their experience can be painful, but the person cannot be painful to us. So, as a brand, we take it really seriously on getting to the bottom of their issue and understanding on, how and how this happened and how we can try to address this in future if we really can. But mostly what we've seen, majority of our consumer complaints are around breakages, which is understandably so because we are living in a world where you're getting groceries delivered to you in 5 minutes, and there is high pressure on supply chain to do that. It's not only at our end where we are doing deliveries to, say, a distribution point or to a delivery center, but it's also on the last mile end where consumer is expecting certain products in 5 to 10 minutes. So there, if there are breakages, they may escalate it to that platform, but surely the brand will also hear about it. So they will put in review in Google or on the platform that I got broken eggs. Here is a one star for you. And so, for a brand, we have to solve it that, okay, we'll offer you, at least we can offer you replacement or, give us a chance again to at least try out our quality and just believe in our quality. And while we address on how we can work with the delivery partner, with the quick commerce platform to improve the supply chain at their end and also at our end, so that these things don't occur in future.
Got it, got it. One thing I have found it a little strange in the overall Indian startup ecosystem is there are like 1,000 startups out there which are working on the vegetarian side of things, be it brand play, be it B2B play, be it, supplying something to the farmer. But if I look at, egg, meat, fish, there's hardly a handful of people, working on that. Uh, what are your thoughts? Why is that not a interesting topic for founders?
I think the business is really interesting, and we do hope that more and more entrepreneurs enter the space. Uh, uh, but from the point of view of if there are any businesses available in these sectors, then these are really crowded markets. Now, in even speaking of eggs, where we operate and can really speak about, so in every market we operate in, which is every metro we operate in, there are around 7 to 8 different players operating. Now, these can be local farmer brands, or these can be local traders who are trying to build out a branded play, or these can be your private labels, your platform-based private labels, who are trying to build out space. So people are putting in real efforts to build branded egg business, and doing it their own way with their own business model. So their industry is just that in the space of eggs, Eggoz is the only player that has gotten access to venture capital and has raised a significant capital that has helped us invest in consumer marketing and grow really really fast as well, and generate a kind of brand pull from the market. When I see other spaces like meat or seafood, again, decently crowded market from the point of view of that there are businesses available in these sectors, but how many of them have raised venture capital? Then they have a very, very few. So I would say at a very local level, entrepreneurs are entering these spaces. It's that very few entrepreneurs are going for venture capital and raising VC money and trying to build it the VC and the startup way. But real businessmen are doing real businesses in each and every sector.
If I were to paraphrase what you're saying, I should be asking this question to VCs and not to founders, because apparently founders are doing this business. VCs are not, funding a lot of them. Fair enough. Just curious, from a, vegetarian versus vegan versus kind of, egg,
Mhm.
and now you're getting into the meat patties and stuff like that. If I were to draw a parallel to ITC, I know a lot of non-smokers work in even the tobacco business of ITC. Uh, do you have, vegetarians kind of associated with you as employees, as partners, or as investors? Just as a side note, I very close friends with a angel investor friend who's so strongly against anything related to animals, he does not even look at pet related startups. I was like, boss, ये तो काट थोड़ी रहे हैं, तुम animals को help ही करेंगे. तो no, I stay away from animals or no, animal related businesses of all kinds, so to say. So just curious
That's
if
it.
you've had any, conflicts or, uncomfortable situations when you're talking to people.
So speaking about Eggoz team, there are many pure veg people in our team. Many, right from leadership right down to sales level. They are really passionate salesmen who are high performers and they are pure veg. They've not even eaten egg in their life. They're not eaten have had meat in their life, and they're high performers in our business as well. So many of them never had a conflict that I'm working in eggs. I don't eat eggs, so I will not work to my 100% of my commitment or 100% of my effort. Never saw that from at least from the folks that we have hired and are fortunate to work with. We have many investors and angel investors who are pure veg and have never had eggs, and still they understood the opportunity, believed in our pitch, and invested their hard-earned money in the company. So so that there is a mix of you can say the culinary preferences in our team, but never had conflicts related to it
Good stuff.
because it's not like anyone in our company inside of a company is forcing the other to you have to try it now that you're in
Sure.
Eggoz. You're free, so it's a very free and open culture. You're free to do whatever. It's just that the company sells eggs, so you better handle your part of the business and do well over there, and while the other people can do well in their areas. And to the in fact that we have folks in our product development area where from where we are coming out with our egg momos and egg nuggets and a lot of our egg derived products. And I know of a person who is a pure veg over there. And this person is responsible for a lot of innovation that has gone out today in the market.
Awesome. I'm reminded of a very bad joke I used to hear during my MBA days that a particular pet food failed because the consumer research guys interviewed the owners. They didn't give the product to the pets, so to say. I'm glad that in your case it's the other way around. It doesn't matter what's the preference of the guy developing the product, but he's just making sure he or she is making sure that the end consumers who are buying the product are liking whatever you make. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, right, there are various non-smokers even in companies like ITC and Fortune. So even there are various non-smokers in their marketing functions and product development. Many of them even I even know in these companies. So, but they know their job and they
Right.
have their own ways to figure out insights and of quality.
Good stuff. On a personal level, have you ever faced, those days when shit, man, ye kya founder life mein ghus gaya? And, you've been a founder right from campus apparently, and felt like I was better out doing a job, or you're like firmly a founder, and this is what you have to do with the rest of your lifetimes.
So see, it has been 10 years since I've been say, without a job. This is my job, but without, say, being an employee in a company. I only worked for a year at Vodafone right out of college, but the intent was to, save money, collect my annual bonus, and leave the job. So I did just that. The very next day, left the job. The very next day, I received my annual bonus. It is just how I've built my career and how I am going about it. The larger thought is that that life is very short, and in terms of the 80 to 100 years you get on this earth, it's nothing compared to the overall time span what the planet has seen. So it's better to work on things where you're really passionate about and doing those things, maximize the opportunities and the time that you have on this planet and the life that you have. It is my motto. Hence, I've never worked in a full-time job. I will always try to build out something on my own because there's so many opportunities available. And I say this very openly that compared to our earlier generations, our generation, even the upcoming generation, Gen Z and the very next, are so fortunate to have access to internet and so many great tools and so many technology tools to where getting things done is relatively so much easier to do today. In fact, the entire world went shut during pandemic, and still, everyone was working. We had Zoom calls to connect. We had, we raised our first institutional funding when pandemic was at its peak on Zoom calls, never met in person. So, I would say in today's day and age when knowledge is just democratic, you have access to everything, technology is cheap, is free. It's the best time to build startups and build your own stuff. You're on mute, Grant.
Thank you. On that note, actually, the last couple of years have been a bit tough on the startup ecosystem, funding winter or whatever you want to call it. And specifically in food agri, I've hardly seen any deals. I think one or two small ones have happened in the recent past, which is good. But overall, where do you see the ecosystem moving? How bullish are you on the overall market?
In terms of overall market, which is related to food and fresh food in particular, which is where we deal, I'm 200% bullish in this sector because if you just zoom out 40, 50 years down the line, fresh food is going to be a currency at that point of time. With the pace at which demand is growing, consumer awareness is growing that, now everyone is aware that there is usage of chemicals, fertilizers, insecticides, antibiotics in my food value chain, and I need to adopt a clean and organic food which is devoid of any chemicals. Just zoom that out 40, 50 years. You'll still expect that, but there will be no supply of these things. Supply will be very, very short. So this sector is only going to grow from here, and companies like Eggoz and various other companies who are trying to build out a clean, fresh food value chain are going is in my opinion going to be really important in future, or from a future consumption point of view. So there is a demand and there is a business case out there, right? Now, in the short term, what has happened that there has been a lot of headwinds that have gone about in the last 2 years with funding winter, high interest rates, geopolitical scenarios, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That has put a strain on the sector. Again, pros and cons. So con is that funding is squeezed out, but the pros are that this has also given a reality check to the entire industry that you better focus on fundamentals and better focus on basics first, and not chase growth just for the sake of growth, and not chase unprofitable revenue and unprofitable growth at all. And this is what we call as correction, right? So a lot of correction has gone across the ecosystem where many good startups, including us, and I know of various other good entrepreneurs have just gotten back to their drawing boards, have stopped chasing growth, have grown by a small amount year on year, but have really improved on bottom line and have really stopped burning VC money or investor money by significant rate. So, but it is how it is benefiting the ecosystem is that now the startups that are now entering the market for fundraise are leaner, are much more stronger on a fundamental basis, on a financial basis, and in fact are real businesses that can attract funding. rather than just ideas who need funding to break even maybe 5 years down the line. So now, would be interesting times, especially in the second half of 2024, is how the funding environment shapes up with, with all of these companies entering the market and maybe liquidity also easing out uh, from a macro point of view.
Great, great. Thank you so much. I really loved your comment about, fresh food will be the currency of the future. That's just a beautiful way of looking at things. Awesome. That's all we had for today. Lovely having you on this podcast. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap. Hope you find the session useful. As you can see, it's possible to build a consumer brand, a direct-to-consumer brand in the Indian food agri space. It's a slightly different path. You need consistency, you need hard work, but it's very much possible. Thank you for being here. I look forward to your feedback. How did you find this session? Do answer the poll and let me know who else you would like me to interview on For $1 Billion More. Don't forget to follow me. Thank you.